everybody, and welcome to the University of Nottingham PGCE webinar. My name is Helen Sparopoulos, and I'm the Admissions Manager at Stafford Associates. And joining me this evening all the way from the University of Nottingham is Lucy Cooker. Good evening to you, Lucy.
Good evening, Helen, and good evening, everybody.
Okay, so I can see on my left-hand side there are quite a lot of you already present. Thank you for joining us. How we're going to do the webinar this evening is I am just going to do a very brief introduction into Stafford Associates. I'm then going to hand you over to Lucy, who's going to take you through the program. And right at the end of the webinar, you can see on the left-hand side, there's a chat box. And I can see everyone saying good evening. Good evening. Okay, and on this chat box, you'll see a tab at the bottom that says send to everyone. At the end of the webinar, you may then type your questions that you have for Lucy, and we'll obviously be able to try and get the answers to you. Okay, so let us get on with the webinar. Right, who is Stafford Associates? Now, obviously you're all here this evening, meaning that you have been in contact with one of our academic consultants at Stafford. We were established in 1993, and we are a resource centre for distance learning education in the Middle East. We are currently the resource centre for 5 UK universities, one of which is the University of Nottingham. We do offer a variety of programs, starting from certificates to diplomas, bachelor's degrees, MBAs, MScs, right through until doctorates. And our role here really is to offer you administrative support. We'll assist you throughout your registration process, and we do also offer an academic support as well. Okay, so I'm going to now hand you over to Lucy. She'll introduce yourself, and I will see you at the end of the presentation. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Helen. So as you can see here, everybody, the University of Nottingham is placed joint 70th in the world and is ranked in the top 1% of universities worldwide at the moment. That's by the latest 2015 rankings. And because of our campuses in Malaysia and China, as well as the UK, we have been described as the nearest Britain has to a truly global university. We are internationally recognised for groundbreaking research and teaching excellence, and that's specifically within the School of Education, as well as the university as a whole. So the Postgraduate Certificate in Education International, the PGCEi, it's a master's level distance learning programme, actually blended learning programme, of professional enrichment for educators working in countries other than the UK. It's blended because every student has a face-to-face meeting in the UAE with tutors who come out from the UK, and all our tutors are University of Nottingham staff members. The course focuses on getting you to reflect on your individual practice through a theoretical lens, and it enables you to compare teaching approaches around the world through communicating with other students on the course. There are 4 compulsory modules on the PGCEi. They're all 15 credits, and they're completed over a period of 12 months. Those modules include one on contexts, which looks at educational philosophies and specifically focuses on international education. The second is entitled Understanding Learning and looks at learning theory. You may be aware of some names such as Vygotsky, Piaget, Montessori, Reggio Emilia. You have an in-depth look at those types of educational thinkers. The third module is entitled Approaches to Teaching, and there you're covering specific approaches that you can use in the classroom. That includes looking at things like planning, assessment, questioning, special educational needs, and other topics like that. And then finally is your final project that's entitled Investigating Student Understanding. And that's an individual research project that you will do in collaboration with your tutor, and you'll be collecting data in your classroom, analysing that and writing it up into a short report. And each assignment, including that final mini research project, is assessed through a 3,000-word assignment. The credits that you earn on the PGCEi, so if you pass every module, you'll earn 60 credits, and they can be carried over into one of our full MA programs. They include MA Education, MA Special Needs and Inclusion, and the MA in Educational Leadership and Management. And all three of those programs are offered online through the University of Nottingham. The 60 credits means that both the work and the cost of the program is reduced by a third. So that can make a really big difference if you're interested in studying at MA level. All the materials for the PGCEi are available online, including the materials you'll need to complete your day-to-day work, and also you'll be accessing our e-library for expanding your reading and looking in more depth at particular topics that interest you. You'll receive individual tutor support through the course, and that includes group discussions online through a forum, email support from your tutor, and if necessary, Skype tutorial support as well. In order to be accepted onto the course, we generally look for a bachelor's degree with a second-class honours or an approved professional qualification at an equivalent level. Now, if English isn't your first language, you must also demonstrate that you have English that's at a good enough standard to be successful on the course. And our requirement for English is academic IELTS at 6.5 minimum, with 6 in all 4 elements, a minimum of 6 in all 4 elements. You should be an established educator with day-to-day access to a classroom. You may not necessarily be a teacher. We also have librarians, and we've even had a school nurse on the course. But you do need that day-to-day access to a classroom. You also need access to a computer, and because it's a blended course, you need access to the internet as well. We do accept non-standard applications, so if you don't have a bachelor's degree at second-class honours, we will look at applications and they are assessed on a case-by-case basis. And we look at things such as your experience in a school, and other teaching work that you've done, other qualifications that you've taken. For your application, you need your certificates and your transcript of your degree. You also need a reference, and that can be an academic reference or a professional reference. We're looking for a personal statement of between 500 and 700 words, and you should think carefully about this because we read them and take them into account very, very, very deeply. And in that personal statement, you should be reflecting on the reasons why you want to do the course and talking about your previous work as an educator. We need a detailed CV, and you will also have to complete the Nottingham application form. You'll need to supply a copy of your passport and also proof of your English language ability. We're currently accepting applications for the March 2017 intake, and for that the application deadline is the 18th of January. So that's not too long away, and our course does fill up very, very quickly. So you are advised to submit your applications as early as possible. The programme itself commences on the 1st of March, And as I mentioned, there are limited places, so you are advised to apply as early as possible. For that start date, the face-to-face workshops are on the 24th and the 25th of March, and also on the 6th and the 7th of October. So the face-to-face sessions are in 2 sections each year. The total fee is 27,500 dirhams, and that's payable in flexible instalments. And there is a 700 dirham application fee, which is payable on submission of your application. So that's all I have to say about the course, but I'm going to hand you back to Helen now, who's going to chair our Q&A session.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, you're very welcome to start typing out your questions. We'll obviously filter through them. Some of the questions may be very, very similar, so we'll answer it once, and we'll be able to get through most of them. Okay, so we've got a very first question from Sean. He's from the UK. He's been coaching multi-sports in Singapore for the past 12 years, has just moved to Qatar. And along with this, he'd like to do an online degree to become a PE teacher. He does not hold any qualification. Can he enroll based on his experience?
Yes, absolutely, Sean. You can certainly apply. As I mentioned, we do accept applications from people, even those with, sorry, I can't remember. Did you say you do have a first degree? That's not clear from what you say. You don't hold any qualifications. I'm sorry. Yes. So we do accept applications from individuals without a first degree. So given that you have experience and that you've been working for 12 years, I would definitely urge you to apply, and we would look at your application on a case-by-case basis.
Okay, Stephen has got a question regarding other institutions. So, Lucy, I don't know if you actually will be able to comment on that, but he's looked at Newcastle and Sutherland PGCE program, and Sutherland seems to have a higher regard to the Newcastle degree. Is there any comment on that from you?
Well, Stephen, funnily enough, I think our University of Nottingham PGCEi is of very high quality, but of course you'd expect me to say that. But if you're choosing between Newcastle and Sunderland, I'm afraid I can't help you.
Okay, so Lisa has a question. What books or reading material would you recommend that can assist with the research?
We supply all of our materials online in the course, so you don't have to buy any additional books or readings. Everything that you need to be successful on the course is available through our virtual learning environment and through our e-library.
Okay, and Amber has got a question. What will be covered in the face-to-face meetings?
We cover a whole variety of things. So partly we look at the content of the course, partly we look at academic writing and the skills that you need to see you successfully through the year. We help you get to grips with the e-resources that you need, again, to be successful on the course. And we also have you working in groups with your tutor so that you can get to know your tutor and you can become familiar with the other participants on the course, which will support you in the online discussions.
And Fatima needs to know, does she relatively need to work in a British curriculum school?
No, not at all, Fatima. We have students in a whole variety of schools around the world. So you might be working in an IB school, you might be working in an Indian curriculum school, you can be working in any school. It doesn't have to be British curriculum.
Okay, and Yat has a very interesting question. wants to become a certified teacher. Do I have to do the PGCE or a master's in education? What do you recommend?
I would say that depends on what you mean by certified teacher. So the PGCEi does not confer QTS. So it doesn't give you any kind of teaching license. It's an academic program to help you develop your skills as a professional in education. It is the first stage, in a sense, to a full master's program. So if you're interested in taking a full master's program, then actually I would suggest that the PGCE is a good place to start, because the PGCEi is very structured, it's very supported in a way that a full master's may not be quite so much. So given that it represents a third of a master's program, it's probably a good starting point.
Okay, and Shaita has a question on how many readings and learning logs do I have to submit in each semester?
That's a good question. There are 8 pieces of assessed work that you would need to submit over the year, and that's 4 assignments and 4 pieces of process work. Process work is the coursework that you complete as you're working through the online materials, and you'll submit that to your tutor for comment and feedback and to support your assignment writing.
Okay, Sean is looking at getting into Australia, so wants to know if the degree will be recognised in Australia.
As an academic qualification, Sean, with carrying 60 master's credits, you should find that they are transferable to programs in Australia, and that it's recognised as an academic qualification in Australia. As I mentioned previously, it doesn't give you a license to teach in the UK or in any country. So we would advise that you check out the requirements in Australia, probably because Australia works on a federal state-based system. You may find that you need to look at the specific state that you're looking to move to and investigate their requirements for teaching.
Yeah, and Cherise is a South African living in Vietnam, teaching English, does have SALTA and a bachelor's degree from the UK. Has a lot of experience in teaching and keen to get into international schools as a qualified teacher. The question is, how recognizable is the certificate granted?
That's a good question. What I can do is I can tell you some statistics from our course. So we have currently over 2,000 students who have graduated from this program. We currently have students all around the world taking this course, and we know from talking to them that they are successful in getting jobs all around the world in international schools. So whilst I can't give you any specific statement that it will be recognised, I mean, different schools have different recruitment requirements, so it does tend to be on a school by school basis. You need to explore what they're looking for, but we are a very widely recognised qualification now. And the fact that we're a Russell Group university, so one of the top universities in the UK, I think is in favour of our graduates.
Nicola is a South African teacher in the UAE. She has a master's in applied linguistics. She teaches higher college 18-plus-year-olds. She would like advice regarding the QTS or QTLS. Is it necessary for employment at a school outside the UK?
Well, the QTS is actually conferred by the UK government. So whilst it's required for some schools, teaching in some schools in the UK, how that is applied to schools outside of the UK will be down to individual schools, their head and the governing body. So it depends on the location of the school, it depends on their particular recruitment policy. So you'd be advised to, if you have a particular school in mind, you would be advised to approach them and to ask exactly what they're looking for in terms of their teacher recruitment.
Okay, the next question is there any breaks, or is it possible to take any breaks while they're studying?
It is. We have a system in place called Voluntary Interruption to Study, which exists precisely to help students who have circumstances which impact upon their ability to submit assignments and to do the necessary coursework. So, for example, if you, let's hope this wouldn't happen, but if you were in an accident and you had to spend a period of time in hospital, you would submit a medical certificate and you would take a period of time out of the course. And that time would be, you would decide how much time you need, you would decide when you come back within a particular time range, and then you would be suspended from the course for that period of time.
Okay, and Stephen has an interesting question is, do we need day-to-day access to a classroom or just occasional access?
That's a good question, Stephen. There are a lot of activities through the course where you are asked or instructed to do work either through observation or through watching what's going on in your class or through trying out different approaches here and there, which means you probably need more than just occasional access, but you don't necessarily need to be in a classroom 100% of the time.
Okay, and Fatima also has an interesting question. Is it really necessary to do the MA in education after doing the PGCEI?
No, you don't have to at all, but we find that many of our graduates choose to do that.
Okay, and Mohammed had a very similar question to Yayat. Basically, what is more suitable for him with the PGCE or the MA? So that has really been answered already. Karen, if for whatever reason I was unable to attend one of the face-to-face sessions, would it affect my end result?
Attendance at the face-to-face sessions is mandatory and it is part of our requirement for the course. It comes under the rules and regulations of attendance and engagement with the university. So our data shows that those who for some reason are not engaging with that face-to-face session, whether it's because there's been some sickness and they're unavoidably absent for part of a day, for example, or whether it's because they just haven't turned up to the session, we find that they really struggle with the course.
Okay, and Amber wants to know if her degree certificate and transcript will state online distance learning.
I'm sorry, Helen, my computer just shut down temporarily and I missed the question. Could you repeat it, please?
Yeah, basically, will the degree certificates and transcripts state online distance learning?
No, they don't.
And, if they do happen to fail, do they have to pay again for the semester or for the whole course fee?
You don't have to pay a whole course fee, but unfortunately you do have to pay a resubmission fee for your assignment. That resubmission fee is £65. Actually, the good news is that that's a fee for the whole year. So you can fail as many assignments as you like within the year for the one bargain price. But obviously we hope that that wouldn't happen.
Okay, and Mark is currently in Qatar but has got 6 years teaching experience in international schools in Italy. He does have a diploma, he doesn't have an undergraduate degree, and can he actually still apply for the program?
Yes, you can. And as I mentioned before, we can look at your application on a case-by-case basis. We would look at your combination of qualifications and experience and what you said in your personal statement and your references to make a decision on that.
Okay, and Calvin says that they finish actual school in June for 2 months and then return in mid-August. How will this time off affect my studies?
I'm not quite sure at what point that would come in the course, but certainly in the past that hasn't been a problem for our students on the Dubai cohort. If there was something like that that was particular to your school or particular to your schedule, then you would simply communicate that to your tutor, and we would work around those dates and those scheduling requirements. We would make it work. There's quite a lot of work that you're doing in terms of reading and writing small pieces of text around those readings, which you don't have to be in school for. So I'm sure that that would coincide with that particular period.
Okay, and the next question, do I have to choose the topic for the learning or reading logs, or will the tutor give me the topic?
The process work that you do, the reflecting that you're doing on the readings as you go through the course, they are directed through instructions in our course materials around particular topics. Your assignments, we provide a general title for the assignment, and then there's some negotiation that goes on around the subtitle for those assignments, where you would provide a particular focus.
Yeah, and Caroline has a very similar question to Sean. She wants to obviously go through to the US, and can she work as a teacher in the US? So again, a very, very similar question to what Sean was asking in getting into Australia. So it really does depend on each country. So you would have to do a little bit of research, which states in the US, they all have different rules and regulations for teaching. So you would have to do a bit of research on that. But do bear in mind that this is recognized worldwide, but you do have to take into consideration what the rules and regulations are in every country. Okay, yet, will the course have any focus on early years, especially play-based learning?
There are particular units in the course where there's a focus on early years. So, for example, we have a unit on the Reggio Emilia approach. We have a unit on Montessori. We also have particular choices that you can make through the course where you're choosing to focus on input around early years.
Okay, and Sean's saying if this program doesn't give him the license to teach, how do we get the license to teach?
That will depend on which country or perhaps which emirate you're working in. And you would need to do the research for that particular country or area. It's also worth bearing in mind. So at the moment in the UK, the situation around QTS, as we call it here, is very complex. So, for example, if you're looking to teach in an international school in the UK, QTS is not a requirement. It's down to the head and the governing body as to whether they choose to ask for QTS as part of their recruitment policy. So again, different schools will have different policies around recruitment.
Okay, and Aruj wants to know what topics will be covered in the course.
There's a whole variety of topics that are covered depending on the module that you're studying. I mentioned a few of them already. So in the first module, we're looking at philosophies of education. We're looking at what we mean by international education. In the second module, we're looking at different learning theories. So we look at Skinner and Piaget and Vygotsky, as well as those other thinkers that I mentioned just now, such as Montessori, such as Gandhi, such as Makiguchi. In the third module, we're looking at approaches to teaching. So that includes topics like differentiation, English as an additional language, as well as those I mentioned earlier, like planning, assessment, questioning, special educational needs, and so on.
Okay, and Maha is looking to volunteer at the school while studying. Is this necessary as part of the program?
You need to have access to a classroom. So if you're not currently working in a school, then yes, you would need to get access to a classroom through volunteering or through some perhaps part-time paid role in a school, but you would need to have that access, yes.
Okay, and how much time do I have to spend on the internet weekly? Probably how much time studying should I be spending weekly?
Yes, it depends what you're doing on the internet, doesn't it? I'm going to tell you how long we advise you should be studying on the course. So each 15 credit module represents 150 hours of work. So over the 4 modules, that's 600 hours. If you break that down over 52 weeks, I think it works out at something like 11.3 hours per week. So it does require some commitment. It's a master's level course, so it's not a piece of cake. You do have to have some commitment and dedication, and it can be quite tough to do it alongside a full-time job.
And Sean wants to know that will this course be able to have him as a fully qualified PE teacher, or is it just a stepping stone?
Well, I'm going to come back to what I was saying about QTS, because this course doesn't confer QTS. So what we are doing is we are helping you to reflect on your own practice. It's an academic course, helping you to reflect on your own practice and to become a better teacher. What you mean by qualified teacher will vary according to where you're working, and so you're best advised to research the particular requirements of the place that you're studying, the place that you're working or wanting to work.
And Nicola just would like to know, is the QTLS equivalent to the QTS?
I'm really sorry, but I don't know enough about QTLS to be able to tell you about that with any degree of confidence. What I can suggest is that you look at those providers of QTLS and contact them and ask about the difference between QTLS and QTS.
Okay, and Lisa says, asks, what happens if you do fail an assignment or a piece of coursework? Do I have an opportunity to retake? Do I need to pass every single assignment, or is there a grade based on overall credits?
You do need to pass every assignment, but if you fail, you do get further opportunities to resubmit that work, yes.
Okay, and Nicola likes to teach primary school, but currently working at a college. Would she be able to use this to obviously go and teach at a school?
Yes, the majority of our graduates either are working in schools or are able to get work in schools once they have completed the qualification.
Okay. Are there any discounts for the PGCE? Shaitan, there's no discounts for the PGCE, but we do have very, very flexible payment options. So do get in touch with your academic consultant to give you all that information. Are the online lectures monitored in terms of attendance, or are we responsible for our own viewing schedule?
That's a good question, and it's a great opportunity for me to clarify that we don't have online lectures. So we believe in a much more interactive method of learning. We provide you with a range of multimedia resources and other opportunities for engaging with those materials, such as group discussions through a forum, where you are more deeply engaging with the ideas that are coming through those readings than you would be if you were simply watching an online lecture. So essentially, in answer to your question, there's no particular schedule. You have complete flexibility to do the readings and do the activities that are within the course at your leisure, at whatever time suits you around your working schedule.
Okay, and Lisa just wants to know, is there any reading material that she should be reading now before she starts the program? Anything that you can suggest that she can sort of get her teeth into before she starts her course?
There are a whole bunch of readings out there. Probably the simplest thing would be for me to send a couple of titles through to your academic consultant. So Helen, perhaps I can pass those to you after this session and you could pass those on.
Perfect. I would love that. Perfect. Okay, and Mark, when will the next course begin? We're obviously starting in March of 2017. However, we are currently accepting applications. Very limited places are available for the March 2017 cohort. So Mark, do get in touch with your academic consultant and try and get your application documents into us ASAP. Caroline, do I have to work as a volunteer throughout my study of my PGCE?
Well, as I've already mentioned, Caroline, you do need to be working in a school environment or to have access to a classroom for the duration of the course. So if you're not currently working, then yes, you would need to be volunteering, or you would need to have access to the classroom in some other way. Yes.
Okay.
Can I just pick up on this from Sean about becoming a PE teacher? I would just say to you, Sean, that we have a large number of students on our course who are working as PE teachers, who have come from backgrounds as soccer coaches, and who are doing our course and have been able to get work in international schools, and that's around the world. And so I hope that's addressed your question there. I get the sense that you were feeling a bit frustrated with that, so I hope that's answered that.
That's super. I was actually just going to mention to Sean to definitely get in touch with myself or with an academic consultant, and we'll definitely be able to assist you in getting into the program. So do get in touch with us, Sean. Okay, are the first two module assignments are summative or formatives? Sorry. Okay, are the first two module assignments or formatives?
Yes, that's a good question. As I mentioned, we have 8 pieces of assessed work over the course. And that's 2 per module. The first piece of work that's assessed in the module is process work. That's assessed pass-fail. And your tutor will be commenting on the work that you've done in the process work, and they will be providing formative comments on that. You then have the opportunity for the first module to submit a draft assignment, and you'll get detailed feedback on that draft assignment, and that's formative comments for you to work on and to really polish that assignment to get it as good as it can possibly be before the final submission. And the final assignment in the module, you will have a grade, a numerical grade, and you will also get formative comments which can feed into your next assignment as well. So we very much believe in formative feedback, and we provide as detailed comments as we can to help you through that process.
Giovanni is currently working as a science technician in a school, holds a master's in analytical chemistry. She will be taking her maternity leave in the month of February until April. So her question is, she's a bit worried about the March face-to-face sessions and whether it's perhaps advisable to do it in October and not in March.
Well, we do have processes in place. As I mentioned, we have the voluntary interruption to study to support people who do need to take time out of the course while they're on course. So, so we would work around that. I would say that comes down to sort of personal preference, really, and being able to work that how you see fit. But yes, we have systems in place to help should the unexpected arise whilst you're on the course.
Okay, and Shweta, is it possible to take the admission first and then submit the IELTS later?
I think you should contact your academic consultant about that. Certainly before you can be made an offer, we do need to see evidence of your English language competence. Yeah.
Shweta, do get in touch with our academic consultants, and they'll be able to advise you with regards to IELTS requirement and what the processes you would need to undertake in order to obtain that, and the time frame to obtain that, so that you can obviously start in March. Okay. Most of the questions are very similar, so I'm just quickly going through them. Okay, Fatima, working on. Okay,
sorry,
so
Helen,
Fatima.
can I just talk to this?
Yeah, certainly.
I just wanted to address this question by Mario. So Mario, you're saying that most people already have jobs as teachers. The course is designed for people who are educators. So the majority of our students, we currently have 1,000 students on course around the world, and the majority of those are already working in schools. Typically, they are teachers who don't have an educational qualification, and so our job is to provide that educational qualification. The distinction here is between what's termed a teaching license and an education qualification. So in the UK, we have a PGCE with QTS. The PGCE is the academic qualification, and the QTS is the teaching license. What we're doing here is offering the academic qualification, the PGCEi. The teaching license will depend on your specific country where you're teaching and the particular requirements of that country. Normally, a teaching license is required by a particular government system. So in the UK, certainly, international schools are outside of that government system. And so QTS is not a requirement to work in international schools in the UK. And I think that's the same in most international schools around the world, although those international schools may specify that they want you to have a teaching license from your country of origin. So I hope that's clarified that distinction between educational qualifications and teaching license.
Okay. And Fatima, do I really need to sit in front of my computer and be in touch with my advisors every day? Okay, so I think we've already
That's
answered.
pretty much down to, yes, you can have regular contact with your tutor if you choose to do so. You will be working through the course materials at your own pace, and typically you will be contacting your tutor when you have a question or when you need